If you are a mother looking to re-enter the workforce, this is the video that you need to watch. I know that it's really scary and intimidating thinking about leaving your family to go back to work after you've spent all this time raising your children. And there are a lot of mistakes that I see highly qualified mothers make when they're trying to re-enter the workforce, which prevents them from getting a job. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a career transition coach and I have helped mothers re-enter the workforce multiple times. So if you want a free strategy session with me, go ahead and sign up at my website, CareerShakers.com. I've even got the link down in the description below. Alright, so here are some tips that you need to know if you are trying to re-enter the workforce after taking a break to raise a family. And the very first tip is that this is not the time to switch careers. This is actually one of the most common mistakes that I see mothers make when they're trying to re-enter the workforce. If you didn't like your previous job that much, all of them are thinking that this is a great time to hit the reset button and go ahead and do something new. But unfortunately, as someone who has trying to re-enter the workforce who hasn't worked in a while, this is going to be extremely difficult by itself. Now, if you want to add on top of that, you want to apply for a job that you technically aren't qualified for, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to get a job. I'm not saying that you should never switch careers if you don't like your job, but this is probably not the ideal time to do it. I recommend that you leverage your existing skill sets that you have to get your very first job back from motherhood and then look to transition afterwards. If you're trying to get a job when you're re-entering the workforce, you're going to need to play to your strengths. Now, if you're someone who has had a mixture of different jobs before you took a break to raise your family, I recommend that you focus on applying for jobs that you did most recently, or the one that you have the most amount of years of experience with. The next tip is that it's totally fine to say on your resume and on your LinkedIn and even in your interviews that you took a break to raise a family. Everybody knows that being a mom is one of the most rewarding things that you can do, and nobody is going to blame you for taking some time away to spend time with your family. It is totally normal in this day and age for moms to take a break and then come back to work. But if you don't say that that's what you were doing on your resume, people are going to wonder why you have this huge gap of employment. And you don't want them to think that it's because you were fired or you were laid off or it was something due to your performance and you were unhireable for all of those years. Next, be prepared to potentially take a demotion of one level. I know, I'm so sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I've seen this multiple times, and you can ask mothers who've had to re-enter the workforce after multiple years of raising a family. You should prepare yourself to take a slight demotion when you are trying to re-enter. It doesn't mean that you are going to take one, but most of the time I've seen people take a bit of a demotion. It depends on how long you've been on a break. If it's only been 1 or 2 years, you actually may not need to take a demotion, especially if you are applying for a smaller company than one that you've worked at before. But if it's been more than 2 to 3 years, be prepared to probably take a demotion of just one level. The reason that you may need to take a demotion if you haven't been working for a while is because companies and employers aren't sure if you're too rusty on your skills and if you've been keeping up with the market, the trends, and all of the latest technology. So to combat this, you're going to want to show them that you've been proactively sharpening your skills and studying to get back into the workforce. You want to show them that you aren't rusty and that you're still technically capable to do the job. And most importantly, you're going to want to show them that you have really strong business acumen. Make sure that you know about all of the latest industries and trends and major players so that when you're interviewing, you can tell them that you've done your research. The next tip is that you need to network, and network some more. All of the mothers that I've helped re-enter the workforce have gotten jobs based on their network. If it's been a while since you've been networking with some of your contacts, you can watch my video right here where you can learn how to network effectively and leverage your connections to get more job referrals. Now, you can also check out specific job boards for moms trying to re-enter the workforce, like themomprojects.com. Now remember, you need to put yourself in the employer's or hiring manager's shoes. If you were looking to hire somebody for a critical job that you had, and you had a choice between hiring someone who has been working and someone who has not worked in years, who would you choose to hire? Unfortunately, this is the kind of situation that you're going to be constantly faced with until you can get your very first job. And that's why networking is so important. It's because people can vouch for you. They can tell these hiring managers and these interviewers and these recruiters how amazing you were before you took a personal break to raise your family and take care of your kids. If they can convey how awesome you were at your job, this is going to get your foot in the door, which is going to get you an interview. And that's all you really need. Make sure that you're taking advantage of all of these opportunities. The next tip is that you should plan and expect for your job search to take 6 months to a year. I know it seems like a really long time and it can be very discouraging, but I promise this is very normal for moms trying to re-enter the workforce. You can talk to any one of them. It does take a really, really long time to find a job, but don't worry about it. Also, you should proactively plan around this, both financially and as you prepare to re-enter the workforce. So make sure that you set aside enough budget where you can maintain your cost of living with your family until you can get a job in 6 to 12 months. Also, if you know that you want to start working when your child, let's say, goes back to preschool, make sure you start searching for jobs 6 months to a year before your child actually starts preschool. You don't want to wait until they start because then you won't have a job for 6 to 12 months. So plan out accordingly with your timeline. Also, when you're networking, don't forget about leveraging your partner's network, as well as the huge network of opportunities that your child opens up for you, especially all of the other mothers of the children that are friends with your children. Because if they are also looking to get back into the workforce, or they are also moms and they are working, they are going to be really sympathetic and they're definitely going to be a great source for you to get job opportunities. All right, here's my next tip, and don't freak out and don't be discouraged. But there are not going to be a lot of companies who are going to want to interview you when you are trying to re-enter the workforce. So this next tip basically means you need to treat each and every single one of these opportunities as your golden ticket. You're going to want to make sure you practice a ton before these interviews so that you can make the most of these opportunities, because you may not get very many. Also, if there's a company that is something that you're not really interested in and is not a company you would normally never want to work at, you should still entertain that opportunity, because you don't really know when another one is going to be coming. Just remember that getting the first job when you're trying to re-enter the workforce is always the hardest. But once you get that first one, you'll just be able to snowball this and you'll probably get a super fast promotion, and then you can leave that company and go work wherever you want. Now, this next tip is the most important one, and this comes directly from a mom who successfully re-entered the workforce recently, and that is that you need to approach your job search with a growth mindset. You need to prepare yourself for the roller coaster of emotions that you are going to feel when you're thinking about doing a job search, when you start to work on your resume, as you start to apply for jobs, as you start to do interviews and talk to your family about it. You're going to need to prepare for all of these emotions that you are going to feel, and this is going to be a huge growth opportunity for you. You're probably going to feel worried and wonder what it's going to be like for your children and what they're going to think about you when you start to go back to work after spending all this time with them. You may even have some imposter syndrome, wondering if you still know what you're doing when you go back to work, or if you still have the skills that you used to because it's been a really long time. Or you may be wondering how you're going to balance being the world's best mom and working 40 plus hours a week again. This is probably the most common one that I hear, but not to worry, you are going to be fantastic. And every single mom that I've helped re-enter the workforce has been totally successful, even though there was a bit of a transition period for the first 1 to 2 months. Think of this journey as your first step to getting to where you want to go. Okay, so these are all of my tips to help you re-enter the workforce, and if you are struggling or you want someone to help coach you and guide you, you can sign up for a free session at CareerShakers.com.